join ya join the training na join olaga do me ku ba ngo khatar ko do be hela do me dani o do ata onda ya ko do ya on te la su lo ma ta ko do training ge go do to ko do ge ngo to na.
And so seeing that disregard again and again for how distributions of aid can put women and girls at risk of sexual exploitation and abuse, or SEA, is what led to the desire to do work to support preventing it. The other piece of this is, of course, that when we think about SEA and other forms of gender-based violence, or GBV, we know that the underlying power dynamics, gendered power dynamics, that are very unequal in these settings are a root cause. When we think about research, which is a big part of prevention, how do we know, why violence is happening and what we can do to stop it? Research often also has these unequal power dynamics. So Empowered Aid is using participatory action research to work with those most affected, in this case refugee women and girls, and really support them to be in roles that determine what questions are asked about their lives and how we answer those questions.
Iman ya tiki kune sourjo moto na to kade kune sourjo kaduko tika diji laga goka i area jin kula karya laga dibili jin kilo ma atiki ko pikipiki lolo yaga tayon kan bayre di jama
to dine sinaga kunde na yunundo na gadina atodino wala kwa i community kata na atopiriki ka na asouro suluja imukuji ikeni sila dike kuwe mukuji ke kilo tikinda na ewoto ipirnaga community nukata au pirnaga na center
The legs
kuyatana ga kata na yinki ne na elakinda katai na ke kilo memeda tupinyi ke kine yako yatakine katai
so the brain keeps us deletion
kenis ke kilo juju kimama kunda na kunungode yala na baiko yada
so sinaga ya nyars kule paari tigana kude kilo girina I pallo drawing laga drawing oberi I da drawing friend no drawing do the best friend no do me da feature na friend no na da drawing exactly ku le da drawing no ngana do fila morta da drawing do ta manda after seeing na remember naga my ponding needed ya ponda training ni boya tiki group discussion la ku drawings maps ya drawing map na do drawing women center na kiko level to gatayo kiko lo to school kiko lo to center kiko lo to TEF church market.
In the workshop we learned four different types of powers: power with, power to, power within, and power over. This helps us to know how sexual exploitation and abuse are. How sexual exploitation and abuse are over workers in the community in distributing AIDS.
Ito kude bai na wai wak supplying man mukana lakini wala majongi ni impa aid na mora usna le pena ya tukuruki power sky la ya ki community nikilo a power with, power within, power over and power to. Kode atikina na bada morta ya kijana kilo pass de I community ni go kuna pocket dot bedna na ule a leader atina gedi na kepodo leadership no na kitani na kepodo so
Learn about different types of power. The types of power there are four. One type of power is power in, power to,
The last is power over. The last is power over. And the examples of power over is, for example,
si power over nina maat gengi mutu dang panda tau dina e polo kule kaso wa polo kuyara ndi maatu kiden nyare nan koda ngarti nan an bergindi an ya uresonde lo digina wojo lakin tinana koda hiru gogine siti lo pen koda he mamodo ka madu nanya gudi lo pen ke tinda ringina na da lenkune ye sini ina nyanya gudi do bakan dari hinna no ko yani mona pe adu ngu gikine ko yani.
I'm Brian Masiko. I work with World Vision in the General Food Assistance Project, which is implemented in Yumbe. That is a project that is to do with the distribution of food to the aid recipients who are in the settlement of Bidibidi settlement, and I am based in Yumbe office. For this project, I work as a meal officer attached to the Empowered Aid project. That is a research project to do with researching about safety of women and girls in accessing aid during distributions. Yeah, thank you.
I've been a part of the project since we began the field work in phase 1. I would go to Lebanon and Uganda very frequently to help the country teams in planning and executing the participatory action research in phase 1, and then help plan the pilots in phase 2.
Ojara Sunday, I work for International Lifeline Fund as the Senior Program Manager for WASH, and we have been partners with the Georgetown University and Global Women Development Initiative for this research on fear. We actively participated in reviewing the tools that were used to collect data at the refugee setting and point of distribution. My role was to co-chair the country by holding meeting and then coordinating meeting between the US folks and Ugandan team among the other people who were leading in Uganda participating in this research. Thank you.
For men different, women different.
Yala di ila do ko pamna do ka di do di gurus kila di do gorju tayin wale do go blockeri ga.
And even transporting it home. How are you going to transport it? And how are you going to store it?
Yala getting ila fiyo. Asa kule ga dire nyar kala fiyo gala to breda. Kuko ager ga yo bai bidala fiyo wale to the jambo outlet.
And we even observe the risky places that leads to exploitation of women, mostly in water sources. Like when women go late or girls go late, some men tend to go there. And in places where they give services to these women, like protection places, where they can easily exploit these women and girls.
So after we've read through the interviews and the focus groups, we created themes and regrouped them into the findings and recommendations. So we turned the preliminary analysis and recommendations into visuals that we later on shared with the women and girls. So we also had workshops with the women and girls where we shared them. We asked staff to share with them the findings in small groups after developing them into visual aids. And then we asked them whether these the issues they've been sharing with us or not. So they had to validate the findings, whether they are the actual things they've been sharing with us. Then after that, we asked them to choose the top 3 recommendations that work for them, that can make aid distribution very safe. And we openly did the vote counting so that there are no disagreements in the last vote counts.
Okay. Did you find this all?
Naga ya kumeda se naga aho tinda hii igwa amurtana yani boyigu yeyeju boyigu panda kuyeyesi kukiko lireti nagati ile kui tamore beri ilaga refugees ku citizen kuis lakinika Itama da na beri ma pagi in meeting ti bedenge ango gele. Yala morena boy ko pona poyeye naga ya dumu da kiko lekine mursala. Transport ko kora ina line ko meeting naga quiz agini ko refugees ko citizen pir na gele.
After I will share about how we midway we through the Empowered Aid study in year 1, after the data collection process, before we had even finished that, we brought the women and girls together with the staff, and we had a session where we reflected on the processes. We had conversations about how the study is going, what has been their experiences so far, how has their capacity or how has this built them as individuals. And we also talked about power, how power has been playing out from the first half of the study. And women were able to share the different experiences they've had as a result of the study, things that they wanted to do. For example, women already felt like they needed to do something because they had learned about sexual exploitation and abuse. They had started to see things in the community that they initially did not question, and I started to question them and felt like they needed to take action. And yet from the study, we needed them to just record these things mentally and share during the interviews. So it was challenging for women, and these were some of the powerful conversations.
Is there something about the workshops you did not enjoy?
The only that I did not enjoy is that we as the group members who are chosen to be the activists, that we are just to observe, but we cannot take action. So that place there I did not enjoy, because you can see the things happening badly, but you cannot take action. That's the only part that I'll take.
Kiko la manakeli inde la power of valor jonda ijana kala ila wate in kemi dor ya dogoro rumbini kiko la da dogoro rumbini sende amada apply le ama trainings modo rumbini sende dem da dor ya adi jo munu na nge na totonda nge aguna tikila do nora kile ama like ipirna ibuna remeda staff school ka ponda ama doko do kudoni la nida meda do ka adi kwandi kina jongara dange ndumi lo nange ama da ala kilos do meda ibudu adi namdo do anapa ama kanya totondo ange bo bona kapajila ku ite dine sina kine de kine na ngona na denu da kine na den de yana sir lo martenyo lo kolo sa senyo laga akonda ngona naro na den de yana sir kuna de yadinya naga na nyer pugo gonga ina ure sini kakata ni imo mora ntotini sina ga ya adipo ke kweyu ituki to so mungo nyanga kine ajona ji in bokata ya ibonaga di kuda tukuno ngene ko kunta focus.
And then when it came to communities, it was also interesting that the community members and community and community leaders could come up with the solutions they could suggest. But the most important of all was that to improve reporting of these cases, we need to give confidence to the beneficiaries that when they report their cases, follow-ups and actions are taken. And then in terms of recommendations and taking up by other stakeholders, yeah, workshops work better because they get to know the problem and they can actually popularize the recommendations in other agencies or in other fora they are part of. And then maybe what could have worked better, I think we needed to have to utilize other available opportunities. For example, sharing briefs or pages, because sharing a full report may not work well because people may take long to pick up the highlights. So we needed to decompress and have pages and share them. And then we also continue sharing to other meetings where we are part of. By that, I think the recommendation would be taken up by distribution agencies and also connecting partners.
I was involved in the analysis of some of the phase 2 data, one of the pilots for food distribution. So for me, the process was easy because we did not have a lot of data, but also for the data which was massive, it was not difficult because we used software, and it was easy because we had the guidance of someone from GWI who really supported us through the process. So the training really did help, and the mentorship to make sure that we understood the process, we understood what was needed, and also setting for ourselves stamina so that we stick within the timelines and also are able to make sense of the data, like asking ourselves critical questions. Also not losing the gender lens in it when you're doing analysis. For example, what does it mean when only 18-year-olds feel unsafe accessing, going for food, accessing aid, or if they feel like they're the ones who have to take maybe 3 hours at the food distribution point? What does it mean when a woman spends half a day at the distribution point? Doesn't that further put her in harm? So really the analysis bit was easy because it was a lot of teamwork and we worked together closely, always asking ourselves, what does this mean? Going beyond the numbers, what does this mean for the woman and girl in the community, and how do we make it safer for her?
It's a very, very, very good project because it has complemented in a great extent what World Vision was trying to put in place to make sure that distribution, food distribution is safe for women and girls. So my take from this project is that if the recommendations are put into consideration, it will go a long way to improve on the way how World Vision distribute or provide food assistance to the beneficiaries. And this one not only to World.
Well, the findings, of course, definitely inform the reality on ground, because sometimes in the distribution industry we have the institutions that are responsible for distribution, but we also have the implementers, the distribution clerks. So if we have this research, we're able to understand actually what really takes place. Because at programs level, sometimes you might not understand what really takes place on the ground, practically. But when this tool is able to bring out, let's say, for example, a disabled woman is not served timely, a pregnant woman is not, and it comes out very clearly in the research. So that definitely will inform for proper programming, and also for other actors to be able to know, is there really a challenge? Because we're not islands, or we're not God to really determine some of the challenges, but through such tools and reports, we'll be able to know what's happening at the distribution points.
Ilo project la geri na ke bayu kulugeri yolo ngaji na kaju iringa ngaji kilo asamba la kitena de na kutedini na kinede na kida geri ju.
Okisa dana faja kanina wana kan maruf lakini ana jaro bila. Like yomda kanna onsu jefi malta tani ana lan nasta ninde itagani masande kan filani kutusa berjalde yara dema kwes
na ingamga nabo kujuna gatina de ibidi tutunda beri community ibidi saka ku jojonda moto kuliana bukata aya tena de ibidi jonda saka nabo ididi nika ko kumosinjiro